When you look up cinema cameras for under 10K, you'll see a unique treasure trove of rigs and builds, each one better than the last. From basically any Arri Alexa camera to Red Komodos and Blackmagic Pocket Cinemas and Ursas. But when you look up the FX6, well, you kind of get the same thing every single time. FX6 body, stock top handle, stock side handle, tilt-a-cage, Sigma 24-70, call it a day. And I'm tired of it. I want the FX6 to be just as unique and special as all the other cameras out there. So I'm gonna change things. Today, we are going to build a truly cinematic FX6 camera rig that will be able to do everything for the ultimate one-man band team. Let's get into it. Now, I'm not saying that the build I mentioned before is a bad thing or that you have to copy mine one for one in order to have a truly cinematic rig. At this point, cinematic is more of a marketing term to sell more cameras than anything at this point. And I get it. Having the type of rig I mentioned earlier is super popular because it works, and it works really, really well. Especially when you consider that the FX6 is mainly used as a documentary cam by a lot of people. But it's a double-edged sword because if you ask me why I think a lot of people aren't seeing the FX6 in the same light as the Red Komodo or the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema cameras, if you push everything technical aside, it's the sex appeal. Take the Red Komodo, for example. There are so many ways that you can be able to build and rig it up, and it looks good. It's sleek, it's professional, it's minimalist, but functional at the same time. And while appearance alone isn't what makes films, having a rig that you enjoy and a rig that makes you feel proud to own it will help to motivate you to make films. And when it comes to clients, despite what people don't want to hear, camera gear kind of matters to people who don't know what camera gear is, because they're going to assume that the bigger something is or the more expensive it is, the more likely you are to know the craft if you're willing to put that kind of money down in the first place. So with that in mind, I did a ton of deep diving and research across many different rigs, many different videos on YouTube across every brand you can think of, and did some diving into my storage closet so that way I wouldn't go completely bankrupt trying to make this thing. So without further ado, let's get into the build. First things first, in order for us to build up our rig, we're gonna have to tear it apart. But thankfully, with the power of YouTube magic, in a second, we have it ready to be built up again. For tools, I love to use the smallrig multi-tool. It's super cheap at 30 bucks, and it has just about every single bit that you can think of when it comes to putting camera pieces together. But of course, because in a past life I must have been a boomer or something, I still like to use the occasional screwdriver, especially for anything flathead related, and a Allen key wrench, as well as a mini tiny screwdriver that I'll be using for specific parts of the gear later. It all begins with the camera itself. And as you've heard with almost every camera rig, dang, this thing is small when it has nothing attached to it. But outside of being a $6 paperweight, it's pretty useless. Let's go ahead and add some memory to it. And have the BPU battery at the ready, but not just yet. First, we need to add what will start setting this camera apart from the others. This is the bright tangerine top plate and filler plate. I'm surprised that this is not talked about more because this top plate is really one of a kind. Before, I was using the wooden camera top plate, and while that one was great, the tolerance and fit on this one is ridiculously good. And with the filler plate, we're able to add a NATO rail to attach whatever you want to add, as long as it can fit the really small clearance. So it's best to use a NATO rail tool, whether it's a top handle or an attachment or a magic arm that is screw in rather than twist in with a knob. Next up is a smallrig quick release plate, so we can move from sticks to handheld in a moment's notice if we need to. And that leads me to what is attached to our sticks, besides the camera, of course. Taking our tripod plate, we'll attach the SmallRig 8-inch dovetail plate. I went with 8 inches over 12 because I just felt like 12 was a little too much for me. Mating to the dovetail is the Sony Rig base plate with ARRI rosettes. I love ARRI rosettes, and this base plate has 2 of them. What else is there to want? Well, I guess build quality too, but it also has that. And to top off this metal plate sandwich, we have the SmallRig quick release base plate. And I think you know what this connects to. Let's bring back the FX6 and add one more vital piece before mating the 2 in holy matrimony. And that is the wooden camera Vmount battery sled. I love this thing. It allows me to adjust the height and angle of my Vmount battery. It also allows me to use my BPU battery and hot swap between them for unlimited shooting. Now that we have it attached, let's connect the FX6 to the base plate. Look at this beautiful brick. Just a couple more things and we'll be able to shoot. Let's add some handles so we're able to hold the camera comfortably. We'll start with the bright tangerine NATO front to back top handle. I specify front to back because they sell an identical one that isn't the one that will work. Ask me how I know. This handle isn't cheap, and that's saying something compared to everything else here on this table. But it is a surprisingly comfortable and sleek handle that is fully adjustable and just enjoyable to use. For the side handle, I'm using the SmallRig rosette wooden side handle, which is crazy to say because I'm giving up what I believe is arguably the most functional and ergonomic stock handle you can get for a camera on the market, which really goes to show just how comfortable and sturdy this handle feels in comparison for me to have no regrets. The grooves in the handle are perfect for my hand, and having that rosette lock attachment makes it feel really secure. Up next are the rods. I use the 16-inch Sony Rig 15mm rods, but really any brand will work. Rods are one of those things where you can save a little bit of money by not having to splurge for the absolute top tier, because at the end of the day, they're just metal rods, and I haven't noticed any difference in quality across multiple brands. Now let's move on to monitoring. We are going to use the Sony stock monitor, which may surprise many of you with what we have so far because on its own, it's pretty bad. But I like to use it as a backup or to pop up a menu without interfering with the primary monitor. To attach it, I removed one of the rear screws from the bright tangerine top plate and used a longer screw that I had laying around in the house to fit into the plate. Now all we do is take the cable, wrap it around, attach it, and there we go. We have visual. In order to get the primary monitor on, we're going to attach the SmallRig area locating pin monitor mount. It's a simple but effective monitor mount that does what I need it to do. Put the monitor in front of my face. Then we'll take the Atmos Shinobi 5-inch monitor. This is a really good monitor, especially when you're not trying to record externally, like with the Ninja V, because it makes it significantly lighter. Although I will admit, if I had the option to, I think I would have just sprung for a 7-inch monitor instead, mostly just because of the extra screen real estate. This is the Fujinon MK 18 to 55mm Super 35 Cine Zoom lens, and this lens is hands down one of the best, if not the best, I have ever used. It has just about everything you can think of as far as features. It's super lightweight at only 2 pounds. It comes with a set with the 50 to 135, which would allow you to effectively cover the entire focal range from wide to tight in a film with only 2 lenses. As soon as I can, I'll have a video on these lenses alone because I think the short blurb I gave is nowhere near giving them enough credit. And lastly, just to clean the rig up so we don't have as many wires, I'm going to be attaching a Sony NPF battery to the back of the Atmos with a right angle HDMI adapter so we can be able to attach our HDMI cable a little easier and have a little more slack towards the front to prevent the HDMI cable from breaking. Wrap it around the V-mount sled. And there we have it. The rig is fully built out and ready to shoot whatever you want. And there we have it, a truly cinematic FX6 rig. Now you might be asking yourself, do I actually need all this? Well, no, there's a reason why the Sigma 24-70 and tilted cage work. It's because it's really simple and you really only need 2 or 3 parts and you have a fully working rig. But with this, it allows you to have the ultimate control, ultimate precision, and again, be a complete one-man band for any type of situation, whether out on the field or on the set. How much did it cost? I'll leave the price up here. I'm sure it's pretty high with at least more than 2 digits, but I'm gonna guess at least $5. What do you do for audio since you don't have the top handle anymore? Well, what I do is I record externally using the Rode Wireless Pro connected directly into my Sennheiser MKE600 like I have now. And I use timecode to jam it in so I don't have to worry about syncing if I'm too far away to clap or if I'm assigned to a gig where there are multiple cameras shooting at once. If I wanted to build like all the other camera brands, why not just buy that instead? Why not get the red Komodo or the Blackmagic Pocket if that's what you want to have for a build? And that is a very valid question. Ultimately, it just comes down to the sensor and the tech that's in the FX6 and to say otherwise. But having built-in ND filters, having the dual base ISO, which allows me to effectively shoot in the dark when I use faster lenses, and just the lightness of it allows me to quickly move between having a stripped down minimal set and a build like this. And again, it's the fact that the FX6 needs more love than what it's getting compared to its red Komodo and Pocket 6K brethren. What kind of is the point of all this? The point is you can always be inspired to build something new and unique, even though it's not on YouTube already or people aren't talking about it in forums. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And with a little bit of work, a little bit of research, and a little bit of creativity, you can always make something new. And with that, I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, wherever you are on this wet marble we call Earth, and peace out. See you in the next one.